All right, we go out west for our latest previews in the NFL. We'll go to NFC West, and of course, is the sky getting a little bit crazy here as we get into like deep in the last few games of the season. A busy week one in college football, and one network is looks getting closer to the end of an era. So that and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee here, finally solo today. Second Cty Sports for special Wednesday edition starts right now. Welcome to a special Wednesday edition of Second City Sports, our first show of September, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Lakina McGee again. Like I said in the teaser, flying solo today, says fulfilling his civic duty. But he will be back. Don't worry, he'll be back on Friday. You can follow Lakina McGee on the Twitter X, and Kid's gonna get an IG. And of course, you can catch SidKid80 on the Twitter and IG at SidKid80. So definitely give him a shout out too. If you want. So, but yeah, of course, you can catch Sports on Chicago anytime, anywhere. On Roku television. Of course, you get the Roku TV app. It's all right there for you. And of course, if you got Ward Media, you can catch Ward Media as replays of our shows there as well. So we've got a lot to talk about, of course. So let's get right to it. A little bit of baseball here as we get closer to the end of the season. I think for some teams, and especially a certain team up down south, thank God. So, and of course, we'll have Nick Kane, who is from 3TV and CBS 5 down in Phoenix, as we talk about the NFC West and preview the Cardinals as well. And he's very, I know he's a big college sports fan, so we're gonna get him talk some college sports as well. Of course, WNBA, the sky looks like it may come down to those last 6 or 7 games left in the season. We'll get to that too, and of course, a network will be officially closing its doors, is putting out their goodbyes and stuff. So we'll talk more about that, and of course, we'll get to the Bears. Hard Knocks. That last episode was actually pretty good, probably one of the best episodes of the season, easily. As we get to it, but yeah, we're going to talk some baseball here as excuse me, as the Cubs, just me a thought, they won 6 in a row. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They swept the Pirates. They swept the Nationals. I think like 15-1 they scored various points, but unfortunately it turned out to not be the case. Those first couple of games back here at the friendly confines, it hasn't been so friendly for the Cubs. They got back to some bad habits. The bullpen blew that one game against on Monday. They couldn't get to Paul schemes yesterday. So yeah, and unfortunately for the Cubs, it's just like you take 2 steps forward. You thought that made this team, it's getting closer and closer. They're gonna figure things out. They take 1 step back. So unfortunately, it is just terrible how the season's coming up, and if they missed, they end up missing that last wild card. We'll get to the wild cards, get a little bit tight in a wild card in just a second, but it's sort of little things here that you had your shot to perhaps maybe gain another game. Unfortunately, that ended up not being the case. So it's been sort of like, as Sid and others will always say, the Cubs have been consistently inconsistent. I think is the word to use, and it's unfortunate that it's just that just we thought that like I said, they start figuring things out. They end up not doing that. And then, of course, Brandon Steele is going to be, miss his start. He was also start today in that rubber match against the Pirates. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. So, yeah, that's pretty much been a microcosm of what the Cubs have been going through this last couple of days. Seems like everything else has kind of been wiped out. So, unfortunately, it's just like you kind of feel you feel for Craig Counsell in his first year, because it's been a tough go at it. But it is just it's just unfortunate there now. The White Sox, on the other hand, what to say? Well, they're getting national attention, but it's all for all the wrong reasons. They actually had an early 2-0 lead against the Orioles. They're playing in Baltimore. Unfortunately, it turns out that yeah, I wish we had a clip of that because Cameron Brown, of course, the Orioles TV broadcaster, he's hilarious. And Andrew Benintendi and Miguel Vargas collided, and yeah, that game was already over with anyway. It kind of just White Sox will full on White Sox go full on White Sox. If we go back to the clip because it's on YouTube all over the place, but it's just like, oh my goodness, like the Sox are just poor Grady Sizemore. I actually feel bad for him because he's basically like thought that he was gonna get some type of managerial experience, but he's basically keeping everybody like on so just keep like everybody like out of trouble until the end of the season. Unfortunately, 22 more games, kids. 22 more games. That's all he can really. It's all he can really say at this point for the White Sox. I mean, it's just like they finish up their series later on today against the Orioles, hoping to avoid to get hoping to avoid the sweep. I don't know if they can do that. They can look if they do that. Look, all the White Sox fans out there. I don't 22 more games, kids. 22 more games. So, it's like you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, like Keaton McGee here, flying solo today. But yeah, I mean, what more can you say now? Speaking of Baltimore, as we talk about the rest of the league, Baltimore has been playing pretty well. And look, I mean, I guess look, if you've been struggling, like of course, Eloy, of course, the irony is that the collision between Benintendi and Vargas was because of Eloy Jimenez. That was did 2 runs there. It's kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, they've been on a roll now. Now again, they swept the Rockies, and now they'll probably very likely sweep the White Sox later this afternoon. And look, doing what you're supposed to against teams, I think this is sort of a way to kind of cure whatever has been ailing them lately. So that's really kind of helping them. As far as a flip side, though, for the Yankees, they've been struggling the last couple of weeks. They lost their series, to St. Louis, which I think that was as our buddy Ryan Field from ABC7 New York said, that was a terrible loss by them, terrible losing series. They did split their first two against the Rangers. They actually had a chance to perhaps win it last night. So, but yeah, I mean, just not a good look for the Yankees as they're now. They were actually tied at one point. I think Baltimore is now up a half a game now, so that's going to be interesting. Now, there's going to be interesting in the Central too. I mean, the Cleveland's been playing very well lately. We thought they would. So, and fortunately for them, the Twins and the Royals have not been playing very well. So, that kind of helps them in that front. But yeah, I think if you're Cleveland, you can kind of take control of this division, and you can kind of try to get things going here. Now, Cleveland, they're finishing up their series against the Royals, who they won the first two, so that's definitely helped them in that front. So, you got to be feeling pretty good. You're in a good spot there, so you're taking care of business against your divisional opponents. So, nicely done there. And as for the West, it's like Houston's starting to pull away, much to my chagrin here. Yeah, they swept the Royals, the four gamer. They did lose the first game of against the Reds, but they've got a little bit of breathing room because unfortunately Seattle's not been playing very well lately. My Mariners have yeah, the Mariners just haven't been doing the job. And unfortunately, it's just yeah. I mean, one more. I think Scott Service wasn't the only problem. I mean, look, if they had missed the playoffs with Service there, okay, yeah, I can kind of see, okay, fine, you know, get rid of him. But unfortunately, that is not being the case. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the Phillies, three Schwarber balls by Mr. Kyle Schwarber. As they're taking care of business against the Blue Jays. They did win 3 out of 4 against Atlanta, so they got a little bit of breathing room there. Now the Braves are still 4.5 up on the Cubs, so we'll see if they can kind of get things going there. Now Milwaukee looks like they're kind of in that division in the Central. And for the Dodgers, they took 3 out of 4 against Arizona, so that definitely gives them a little bit of breathing room. And I think of course they won their opener against the Angels. And as a friend of mine said, and I think he's right about this, that the Dodgers are actually playing meaningful baseball, which that wasn't the case the last couple of years. So they can kind of get things going. They can kind of like get things, organized and such. And they can kind of they won't feel lax as they go into the playoffs. So I think the fact they had to be a little, kind of let kind of like the guard up and kind of like try to play in. And of course, Mr. Shohei Ohtani is still doing his thing, leading the National League in both stolen bases and home runs. So the fact that he's definitely making a case for another MVP this time for the National League side. Just really amazing. I think there's really nothing more you can say about Mr. Otani. I mean, it's just like he had the most steals and runs in August. He becomes the first player to lead outright in both those categories in the same month. Yeah, going back to the late great Willie Mays. Yet all the way back to 1956. So yeah, just an amazing accomplishment. Like I said, there's one more case to say about Mr. Otani now as we go into the scheduling, as we finish up this baseball talk here. Of course, the Phillies and the Blue Jays, they finish up their series. So do the White Sox and the Orioles. Houston and Cincinnati, of course. Houston will try to even that series. The Nationals and Miami. Minnesota and Tampa, of course. Minnesota, of course, they'll all set the opener, so we'll see. They can try to get a win there. Boston and the Mets. Mets trying to hang on in that wild card. So was Atlanta with all their injuries. Kansas City and Cleveland. Cleveland, that game will be on FS1. Pittsburgh and the Cubs. St. Louis and Milwaukee. Milwaukee hoping to put some more distance between them in that division. The Yankees and the Rangers. That game tonight will be on Prime Video. Dodgers and the Angels. They can hopefully the Dodgers kind of keep taking a business, keeping them some distance. Detroit and San Diego. San Diego hoping to kind of keep it going there. Seattle and Oakland. And Arizona and San Francisco. I know I'm sure San Francisco will love to play spoiler for Arizona in that division. And your schedule for tomorrow, trying to see if there's any games that have not. Philadelphia and Miami. So, Philadelphia hoping to take care of business there. I think that's it. Nationals and the Pirates. Everyone else is finished with the series. And the Angels and Texas, they start their series. So, that is your schedule for the next couple of days. And MLB, I'm going to take a really quick break. And we'll be right back right after this as we talk some football. Of course, NFC West. We go out west here with our new buddy Nick King from 3TV and CBS 5 in Phoenix. Coming up next, Lakina McGee, Cty Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Go into the NFC West coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry about that. Welcome back to Cty Sports on Sports Social Chicago. I'm Lakina McGee. You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X at Keenan McGee on the IG. Of course, flying solo today as Sid is fulfilling his civic duty. So hopefully he'll be back on Friday now. But we're going to soldier on here. Of course, one of the things we love doing here is that, of course, you know, if you guys have watched our show over the years, we got our usual people that we have on the show. If you guys would follow the show, you know. But one of the cooler things about it is that we get to meet some cool new friends, and we're going to meet one right now. You can watch him if you're in Phoenix. You can watch him at 3 TV and CBS 5, which is affiliate down in Phoenix, Arizona. He is the one, the only. He's a sports anchor and reporter. He's the one, the fabulous Mr. Nick King. Get him up here. Nick, how are you? There you go. How are you, Nick? I can't. Yeah, I say your volume is I can't hear. Wait, wait, yeah. Live. We're doing this live, folks. All right. You know what? Come back and refresh it to me. Hopefully that'll help you. Just exit out and refresh. So we'll try to see if we can reestablish a connection with Nick here as yeah. So we're gonna do a refresher here. Gonna do an audible here now as we try to get reconnect with Nick. You know, the interesting thing about the NFC West is that, of course, you know, we got the usual suspects. Of course, you got the Rams with all the things. You know, Aaron Donald's retired, and now you've got other, other avenues. You've got the 49ers finally being able to figure things out in their front with the with their contract situation with both Brandon Ayuk, and of course, yesterday we just got word that Mr. Trent Williams, the All-Pro left tackle. They agree on a new deal, some guaranteed money. That's what he's been wanting in the last couple of months. So hopefully they were able to figure that out. So I'm glad they were able to do that. Arizona's going to be an interesting team to watch for. Hopefully we can get Nick to reconnect with Nick here. But you've got Kyler Murray, of course, coming back from injury. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie QB from rookie wide receiver, I should say, from Ohio State. The defense should be very interesting because I think that could be like a sense that could be like a chance for us to kind of try to get things going here and such. So okay, so let's see. Let's try. All right, take two, Mr. Nick King. Take two. Right. There we go.
I think I got it.
Got it. Love it. Love it. Well, that's okay. Sometimes a refresher is just what the doctor ordered. Now, Nick, I was just saying that Arizona was a fascinating team last year. I mean, of course, Kyler Murray, being hurt, and then you got a new regime. They actually gave a lot of teams a run for their money. So, what's the expectations for Arizona this season?
Optimism is up. Last year around this time, there was, at least from the fan base and the people who live in Arizona, there was not a lot of hope or optimism, just knowing that Kyler Murray was going to miss half the season and that there wasn't a lot of talent left behind him. And they were competitive, even without him, with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. But then they were really interesting down the stretch with Kyler Murray at quarterback. They were one of the best running teams in football. James Conner had a really great year. And I think that's something that they will lean on again this year. They've got a pretty stacked, maybe not big names, but pretty stacked backfield and an offensive line and a coaching staff that wants to run the ball. And Kyler Murray seems like kind of a different guy than the one that we saw for his first couple of years in the pros. The maturity level, and he's acknowledged this, is just way different. I think there's probably a little bit of being humbled by a rough season before the injury.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless
Thank
you.
And then going through the injury and the rehab process. and he seems to really vibe with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach and Drew Petzing as the offensive coordinator. I think a lot of the players really seem to vibe with those guys too. Total change of culture from when Cliff Kingsbury was here to Jonathan Gannon and his staff taking over. So they're still not the most talented roster, but based on how competitive they were last year, in the first year of the new regime and with even less talent, I think people think they can flirt with the playoffs this year.
One of the big acquisitions was the drafting of Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. How has he looked so far in training camp in the preseason, and can he be one of Kyler's top targets?
That's the hope for people here for sure, that he's going to step in and be the number one guy, because the Cardinals have a couple of decent options outside of him. Michael Wilson will kind of be their number 2. Greg Dortch is their number 3, who names that aren't household names by any means outside of Arizona. I don't think. Zay Jones they acquired in the offseason will have to miss the first 5 games due to suspension, but think he'll play a role. But given those names, there is the expectation that Marvin Harrison Jr. will step in as a rookie and be the number one guy and command a lot of attention. And I should probably mention their tight end, Trey McBride, as well, is really came on last year and think he'll get a lot of attention. Probably, I think McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. will be 1 and 2 in receptions for the Cardinals. He looks like the real deal. He is obviously growing up with the dad that he had. It's like nothing about this feels big for him. Like he's been preparing for this his entire life, and he's ready for this. We didn't get to see him in the preseason because the Cardinals didn't play anyone in the preseason. Like I would have to look at it, but I'm not sure that a single starter who will be out there on offense or defense on Sunday in Buffalo played a second in the preseason. Well, actually, to Marvin Harrison Jr., he did. He played like a series in the first preseason game, but essentially we saw very little. But what we saw in practice, making plays, he's strong, he's big, really, really crisp route runner. He looks like the real deal. So that's about as interesting as anything with the Cardinals as the season starts, is see what he looks like on Sundays.
And what about the defense? Because, like you said, not a lot of big names all over, but especially on the defense. But it was really the defense that kind of kept the Cardinals in a lot of these games last year. And so what do you think? Do you think they could be like that top, maybe not top 10, it might be a bit of a reach, but maybe like a top 15, somewhere in the middle of the pack?
I think that still might be asking a lot of this defense. They are not – the name recognition in their front seven especially is super low. Now, maybe some of these guys surprise. They did bring in a couple people for their defensive line in the offseason that seem like they'll be an upgrade there. They have a really good safety tandem in Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. I thought Budda had kind of a little bit of a down year last year. He went from kind of being, maybe top safety, top 2 or 3 safeties in the NFL 2 or 3 seasons ago to maybe falling off of that a little bit last year, but still expected to be really good. Jalen Thompson, I think, is a name that probably a lot of people don't know, but he's really good. And they drafted a rookie safety who they think very highly of. And so that the safeties are good, but the cornerbacks are thin, and the defensive linemen and what kind of pressure they can put on quarterbacks, I think, is probably the big question mark with the defense. Kind of like their linebackers. Kaiser White is their middle linebacker, like him a lot. But who pressures the quarterback, who picks up sacks, is pretty unclear at this point. Even B.J. Ojulari was a guy that was looking like he might be able to fill that role, and he got hurt in the preseason in camp. So There's if they were top 15, that would be a welcome surprise because I think a lot of people think they'll be bottom 2 or 3 defenses in the NFL. So if they're anywhere between 10 and 20, like that would be asking a lot, and they would take that, I think.
The one name that I think a lot of people do know from that defense is Bubba Baker, and I know he's playing for a contract. What do you think? Can he kind of lead that secondary? Because I know you said the secondary is actually probably one of the few good spots in for the Cardinals. So what about Bubba Baker and his? Where do you think he's going to be this year?
Yeah, I think it probably motivates him a little bit that last year wasn't awesome for his standards that he'd set the previous couple of years. Anyone who's coming up on a contract year, that pretty much always adds to it. So, and then he's a guy who is now a veteran in the organization. I'm actually not sure, as I think about it, who's been on the team longer than him. He might be the most tenured guy on the roster now. I know the first day of camp when they reported in July, Buddha got up and spoke to the team, and he's kind of filled that role in the last couple of years. And if anyone watched the in-season Hard Knocks with the Cardinals a couple of years ago, saw a very passionate Buddha Baker talking after one of the games, being tired of losing. Yeah. And they've lost 13 games 2 years in a row. So I think he'll probably be duly motivated by the team's struggles the last couple of years. And again, him being just a little bit below his standard. And he's a guy, if there's anyone on the roster that people are really attracted to because of his style of play and believe in a guy, it's him for sure.
Talking to our new friend Nick King from 3TV and CBS 5 in Phoenix on Cty Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, no Sydney Brown today, but just me. But Nick, let's talk about the rest of the NFC West because it's an interesting division to say the least. Of course, you got the Rams. No more Aaron Donald. I know Kyler Murray was very happy when that news came out of him retiring. I know he was very pleased with that news. But you got to think they got a lot of talent there. Of course, you got Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, and the defense is actually still pretty good even without Aaron Donald. So we'll see what happens there. Now San Francisco, they're able to get all the contract situation finally handled with both Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. Trent Williams got his guaranteed money in Seattle too. A totally different regime. Again, there's still a lot of talent there. You got Geno Smith, DK Metcalf in that group. So where do you think the Cardinals measure up in that very highly competitive division?
Yeah, I don't think anyone touches the 49ers. They're so good, so well run, and I think what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and those guys do there is just incredible. To me, that's as impressive as it gets right now in the NFL organization and the talent that they have on the roster still. So, Niners are number one at the top, no question. Mm-hmm. I don't know about number 2 in the division. Mm-hmm. I think probably the popular pick would be the Rams there. And they still have Matthew Stafford and the weapons outside. And I think that's reasonable. I think the Cardinals ought to be better than the Seahawks with Seattle's change in regime, as you said, transition for them. Don't have a lot of the big names that they had for a solid decade there, and I think the Cardinals ought to be better. That should be. I think it would be a disappointment for the Cardinals to finish 4th again in the division, and I think they absolutely, if they have the kind of year that they think they can, should be better than Seattle. And I think if things fall right, it's not impossible that they are the second best team in the West, that they are ahead of the Rams. I think they're probably somewhere around the second or third team. They're somewhere in the middle in the division.
Now we'll get back to. I'll ask you your prediction for a record in a bit, but I'm not gonna get it behind that for a second. But of course, we'll talk about the rest of Arizona sports. A very busy time in Arizona. Of course, you got the D-bats fighting for a wild card spot in the National League. The Mercury, I believe they just clinched a playoff spot for the first time in a few years. We'll talk about the college on the college side because your background is pretty fascinating. We'll get to that in a second. So, but what do you think? We'll start with the Mercury. Cause I saw you were at the Mercury game last night. Do you think the Mercury can kind of mix the roads and send Diana Taurasi out a winner?
I don't believe so. Which there was a time this season where I thought that they were capable of giving anyone in the WNBA a problem on any given night. Didn't think they would be as nearly as consistent as the Liberty and the Sun at the top, and that's certainly proven to be true. But it's been they've gone through their struggles lately, and they're good. They are absolutely better than the worst teams in the WNBA. So they beat the Atlanta Dream last night, and that made them 13-2 this season against the 5 teams behind them in the standings. But the 6 teams that are in front of them, they're 4-15 against this year. So they beat up on the bad teams, and they've largely struggled against the good teams. They're still capable, talent-wise, if they're clicking, to beat the Liberty or the Sun or the Aces or the Lynx. For a game, I'm not sure they can do it 2 out of 3. But you never know. The talent is there. They've got a very potent starting 5 and really top 6, I would say, when they're healthy. But it's tough to think that they could make any real noise just given the fact that they really haven't beaten any of the top teams with any kind of consistency.
Well, you helped out our Sky out by beating the Dream last night. So I think the Sky has a tiebreaker. Kind of weird how they do that, but I'll explain it after the break. But what about the D-backs? What about the D-backs? You think they made it all the way to the World Series, kind of out of nowhere? They're right there to think of it in the National League wild card. If they do hang on, and again, one of those wild card spots came, do you think they can make it back to the World Series again?
Yes, they're better. Okay, so the Diamondbacks are very interesting because for the most part last year in the postseason, they were carried by their starting pitchers. And there was a lot of timely hitting, and there were several comebacks, but they had really top-notch starting pitching. And then they went out in the offseason and got Eduardo Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery, and it kind of felt like, oh man, like if this starting 5, this 5-man rotation, starting rotation, they could be right up there as one of the best in baseball. Then they dealt with injuries, and Eduardo Rodriguez missed the first couple months of the season, and Merrill Kelly missed almost 4 months, and Zach Gallen missed a month plus. Jordan Montgomery missed time and generally just hasn't been very good. All of which is to say, they've been easily the best offense in baseball this year. Nobody scored more runs than the Diamondbacks. And that's been what's won them games. The starting pitching has been a massive disappointment, especially over the last month here, as they've got all of their guys healthy finally. So maybe a little bit of that is still working back from the injuries. If their starting pitching figures it out in the last 3.5 weeks here, it would not surprise me one bit if they were back in the World Series, because their depth at the plate how good they are defensively behind the pitchers is incredible. So the talent is there from the pitching. That if even a couple of the guys figure it out, I think they can absolutely beat anyone. I mean, they just lost over the weekend. Dodgers took 3 of 4 from them here in Arizona, but the Diamondbacks outscored them over the 4 games. They just so the run scoring is not an issue. They just need their starting pitching to be better.
Well, you guys are pushing the Dodgers, so I guess they're kind of getting their fresh ready for as we go into the playoffs. So maybe you guys are kind of doing them a favor by staying right there with them now. I know we're a couple months away from the NBA season starting. The Suns, can they contend in the West up there with the Mavs and the T-Wolves and of course the Nuggets? What do you think?
It's hard to imagine, because of how disappointing the Suns were last year. I mean, at this time last year, it was pretty much a championship or bust mentality, and it was a big bust to get swept in the first round of the playoffs. And obviously that T-Wolves team was a lot better than anyone realized, but there haven't been. Well, I was about to say there haven't been significant changes. I might consider it a significant change that they have some point guards now. They really didn't have a point guard last year, and they were so turnover prone, trying to have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and to a lesser extent Kevin Durant, bring the ball up the floor and run the offense. And I think they found out that they need a point guard to set those guys up. The idea was to keep the ball in their hands as much as possible, but it can work in spurts for Devin Booker or Bradley Beal to be the point guard, but they're better served with a point guard. So they have Tyus Jones, who's going to start now, and he's not one of the 10 or 15 or probably even 20 best point guards in the league, but he's a serviceable point guard. And then Monte Morris, they bring in from Minnesota to be the backup. And so those two are an enormous upgrade over the position that they struggled the most with last year. But still, I'm not sure that they are on the level of those top teams. It would have to be a pretty massive jump from what they were last year. Now, they also changed coaching staff, so it's going to be super interesting to see what they look like under Mike Budenholzer as opposed to what they look like under Frank Vogel. It didn't work, clearly, with Vogel. And it seemed like there was lack of buy-in from their stars with Frank Vogel. And so maybe the connection is different with those guys and Bud. I mean, talent-wise, frankly, it's a little bit like the Mercury. In which they have a ton of top-end talent, but they're not super deep, and they're a little bit older. Kevin Durant played 75 games last year, I think. It's hard to believe that he'll be that healthy again, just given on his history over the 5-6 seasons before last year. Bradley Beal's not super young at this point either. So I think they're capable of being the 4th, 5th best team in the West, but last year it was belief preseason that they would be certainly in play for the Western Conference Finals, if nothing else. This time around, I would say they reach the Western Conference Finals. At this point, I'd be mildly surprised. I think they might be like a second-round playoff team.
Well, I had them going to the finals the last couple of years, so they've made me feel silly at this point. But that's
not alone.
Yeah, I mean, look, but I digress. A few more minutes here with 3TV and CBS 5's Nick King here on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee here with you. Now, your background's fascinating, Nick, because you got your love for broadcasting by calling your brothers pick up basketball and football games. And I know you're a big college sports fan, so I see you're a North Carolina grad as well. Now, I'll say this. What do you think about Arizona State this year in both football and men's basketball? And same thing with North Carolina. I saw North Carolina got a big win against Minnesota over the weekend. Not an easy place to play. So where do you think? And I think another part to this is that, do you think Hubert Davis is on the hot seat with the men's hoops team?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't do a very good job as an alum paying attention to the football team. And to a lesser extent, even basketball. It just it's such a weird thing when you work in sports. Sometimes you watch a lot less sports than you did beforehand. So I'm just I tend to be very locked in on what's going on in Arizona, but so often I'm at a game or in the studio or doing an interview, what have you, while North Carolina is playing in football or basketball. And so the truth is that I don't see a lot of them play. I think if basketball would really struggle, Hubert might find himself on the hot seat. But I think being in the national championship game 2 years ago gives him a little bit more grace. That the one thing I know is that they have a lot of talent this year. So they should not struggle very much. So if they were to have like a really poor season, I could see him on the hot seat, but I don't think he goes into this season quite on the hot seat.
Okay.
As for Arizona State, which I know actually better at this point. Really good opening weekends. Well, really good for ASU opening weekend in football, coming off the worst 2-year stretch in program history. They were only 7-point favorites against Wyoming, a team that won 9 games a year ago, and they looked really good. Both sides of the ball in a 48-7 win that should have been 48-0. Wyoming scored with like 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
That
was surprising too, because I did not see that coming. I thought Wyoming would get them pretty good. So
yeah. I definitely didn't think it would be a blowout. Now they have Mississippi State coming to Tempe this week. The Sun Devils have never beaten an SEC school before. And if it was, this would be the chance at home against one of the lesser programs in the conference. So that'll be fascinating. They win that game and they will be considered way ahead of schedule, I think, with Kenny Dillingham, young head coach in his second season. Like him a lot. He grew up here, kind of a dream job for him, wants to be here a long time. I do think that they're in the right hands with him. But yeah, to start the season the way they did, and if they beat Mississippi State, it would feel a little bit ahead of schedule, which they would certainly take. Arizona, I didn't get to see much of their game, but their quarterback wide receiver combination, Noah Fafita and Tetairoa McMillan is pretty terrifying. McMillan's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft, most likely. He is massively talented, and Fafita came on kind of second half of last third of last year, and was fantastic and started the season the same way. They gave up a lot of points to New Mexico, but that offense is going to score a lot of points, so that might not matter a ton. And I'll say for basketball, ASU might be as good as they've been in a long time. Bobby Hurley had a pretty incredible recruiting class come in. It's going to be like most programs at this point. It's going to be a whole lot of new faces, and how quickly they're able to gel is certainly always a question. But talent-wise, they've never been better. But they go to the Big 12 this year, and it's more challenging at this point than the Pac-12 was in basketball. So it won't be easy. Arizona lost a couple of guys. They've been a disappointment in the NCAA tournament under Tommy Lloyd, but they've been incredibly consistent in the regular season, and I wouldn't expect that to change much. I do think playing the Kansases and the Baylors, and that they might lose, 2 or 3 more regular season games, but they're still going to be one of the better teams in the country.
Those Arizona State, Kansas State, Baylor, Texas Tech. I mean, those are really. Those might be the good part of this whole conference realignment thing in the Big 12. So that should be interesting. I think both teams should do very well in that conference. They should do just fine. It's gonna be weird. It was weird seeing like the Big 12 patch in both Arizona State watching those games. It was just a little bit weird. Just a little bit weird. But I'll let you out here on this, Nick. You can get a mulligan here, so don't worry. But what do you think their final record of the Cardinals are going to be in the NFC West?
I think they'll be 9-8. As their overall record, and if I would say division specific, I would say 3-3.
Okay, that sounds about right to us. To where like a lot of people are predicting them. So, well, we won't do our predictions yet, but yeah, that's interesting. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining me today and taking time out of your busy schedule to talk. We end up talking a lot of Cardinals and a lot of Arizona sports. So I'm glad you joined me. So where people can find you?
One thing I know.
Yeah, so no, absolutely. So where we can find you on social media and on CBS 5 in Phoenix.
Yeah, so Nick King Sports on Twitter, King TV on Instagram, and if anyone tuning in is in Arizona, we've got a pretty good nightly sports show that we call The Extra Point that's on Channel 3 here, and that's from 10:35 until 11. Monday through Friday. So find me there.
Nice. Okay, Nick, we're going to get you back on. Hopefully nobody still be joining us. So I'm sure you got a lot of questions for you as well because he loves Arizona sports. So he loves the D-Bat. So yeah, so D-Bat. So you're definitely going to have you back on, Nick. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Lakina. Have a great one.
You too. Stay safe and enjoy the season.
Thank you.
All right, that was Nick King from 3TV and CBS 5 in Phoenix. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Cty Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. After this break, we're gonna talk some NFL. It's almost time, folks. We're gonna talk a little bit of Bears. We're gonna preview the Ravens and Chiefs coming up on tomorrow night. Can the Ravens get their revenge? We'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow night. So we're gonna break it down. Coming up next, of course, we'll talk some WNBA as well as we talked with Nick. The Phoenix did give the Sky a favor yesterday because they didn't really help themselves and win against Vegas. But we're going to talk some college football too, more college football and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, more Cty Sports coming up right after this. No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean,
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to Cty Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. You can find my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, executes me on the IG. Of course, my brother from another, Sid the Kid 80. You follow him at Sid Kid 80, at Sid Kid 80 on both the Twitter and the IG. So as you guys can see at the bottom here, I'm gonna keep it going and talk some NFL. And like I said earlier, you got the contract situation for the 49ers. Of course, we talked about Brandon Ayuk's situation on Friday. Now we're yesterday, Mr. Trent Williams got his new paper. Of course, he gets about, I think it's like 63 million. I think about 45 million guaranteed, give or take. So that was really like the big issue here, and it's going to be interesting to see like once everybody gets into football shape. But it's kind of going to be a little bit cathartic there, and I'm sure if you're a 49ers and a 49ers fan, I'm sure you're glad that's over with now. The Bears, if you saw, again, we'll recap last night's Hard Knocks, the season finale. I gotta say, probably they definitely said the best for last. See, Brian Poles tell personally the guys getting cut and such, and guys staying into the practice squad. They love them some Bayless Jones. Again, we'll get more and more in depth into it coming up with Sid and our girl Christine Mack from KXRB on Friday. So of course, as the Bears are getting up for their regular season opener against the Titans, and it's going to be interesting, like we've been saying, because with all the hype, what's going on with the Bears and such, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Bears, it's how they set the tone early. And I think they played 4 preseason games, so you wonder if that's going to kind of wear on them a little bit. Again, we'll see. I mean, you saw that a nice ending shot with Caleb Williams. You'll get into the just taking a deep breath and kind of like get into the swing of things. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of gets going there for the beloved. Like I said, we'll talk more about that coming up later on this week on Friday on our regular slot. But let's preview the Ravens and Chiefs game, because I'm interested to see how this sort of will play out, because it's a rematch from last year's last season's AFC title game. And I'm interested to see how the the mindset's going to be, because of course this is when the Chiefs just get their rings, and we'll see if there's going to be a lot of emotion there, or maybe this is like, hey, we've been there, done that. Now they are going to be without former Raven, of course, current Chiefs wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown. Of course, he also played for the Cardinals. Ironically, shoulder injury's been bothering him the last couple of weeks, and he's not going to be able to play tomorrow for the Chiefs. Everyone else is good to go on both teams, so everyone's gonna be pretty healthy for the most part. So I think if you're the Ravens, you want to try to set the tone early. Force that ball down the field, make Derrick Henry that's one of the reasons why you got him was because of the fact that he can get it down the field. Says we'll see how much he has of it. He is getting a little bit older, is a little bit of wear, but we'll see if the Chiefs can try to slow him down and whatnot. Lamar Jackson gonna be interested to see how he kind of gets things going there and how he looks for the team a lot during the preseason and also too, like the defense. I know Roquan Smith and the rest of the Ravens defense. Interestingly enough, though, they did restructure his contract, so that'll free up a little bit of money for if they decide to make any more moves. You'll get guys off the street, and whatnot. So that could be a nice thing to look out for as well. I'm kind of fascinated to see like how the Chiefs look on defense because again, Chris Jones, he hasn't played a lot in the preseason. We'll see. You got to wonder how much that's gonna these guys are going to kind of like how much it's getting into routine and getting things going. So I think for me, I think the Chiefs are going to be, Arrowhead's going to be Arrowhead's going to be rocking. That place is going to be, right there into the middle of that grit. And I think that the Ravens really want to try to get their revenge. I know John Harbaugh kind of like stopped trying to say this is a revenge game, but you gotta think the rest of the Ravens team, I think, and they're playing, and you gotta think they're playing a little bit inspired too. They lost one of their long time not defensive coordinator, but one of their especially their I think they're one of their linebackers coach who's been there I think for like 20 years and he passed away, so you got to think that he's going to be on their minds. They're going to wear a patch on their helmets all season. You got to think they're going to be playing inspired. So you got to think that that's going to play into a factor as well. And I think if you're the Chiefs, you'll see Pat Mahomes, of course, doing his thing. Xavier Worthy, he could probably be an X factor there. We'll see how much they use him. How much also too is Travis Kelce got left in the tank? I mean, even he's admitted that, hey, look, I'm a little step slower than I'm used to. Of course, being 30, he just turned 34, so you gotta think is starting to kind of wear and tear as well. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that kind of goes. I really think that if you're the Ravens, you want to try to set the tone early on offense, especially, but your defense, you want to try to slow down Worthy, try to force Mahomes to, make, choices down the field, make sure, doesn't get a chance to even think about running because, that's what he does best. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, which team is going to kind of like, lay the groundwork and setting the tone. Now, can the Ravens feed off that emotion with the Chiefs getting their raise? Will it inspire them? I mean, that could be interesting too. So this is going to be one of those games where like, it really could go either way. I don't think it's going to be a blowout per se. It's not going to happen. Either the Chiefs win a very close one or the Ravens win a very close one. There's really no in between. I don't think there's going to be anybody who's going to blow out anybody. So I think it's going to be kind of like those things where you wonder, like the Ravens, you wonder. I'm sure the windows. I don't want to say the windows starting to close. We got to think the windows still open a little bit, but they had their chance to perhaps maybe win it all. It was still, and I'm sure I think they lost still weighs heavily for them in the AFC title games, losing at home especially. So yeah, I'm sure they're going to want to get a little bit of kickback for that. So should be a fun matchup coming up tomorrow night, and it should be yeah. I mean, it might be one of those days where, look, I think, like I said, it's going to be a close game. It's going to get very interesting in the in the onset, and I think it's going to be interesting kind of how this sort of shakes out because, like I said, it's really going to depend on how which team can kind of drive the narrative and set the tone early. So could be very interesting there. I will say the Ravens win, but like I said, it's going to be a close one, and I think the energy of I think they're going to feed off that, and I think it'll be interesting to see what it could come down to. Could come down to a field goal. We'll see. So should be fun. You can watch that game tomorrow night on NBC, your local NBC affiliate, or if you want to stream it on Peacock, you can stream it on Peacock as well at 7:20. Of course, the pregame will come on before that, so I'm interested to see what happens there on the onset. Now, a few more NFL news before we move on to the WNBA. Let's see. Like I said, I talked about the Trent Williams contract finally. And Patrick Surtain, the DB for the Broncos, he got a nice little fresh paper as well. Let me see if I can get it up here for you guys. Probably one of the best DBs in the league, and he's like one of the top guys out there. He's gonna get a $75.5 million guaranteed, and he's going to have 96 million. That's 24 million a year. So a lot of the front loading money. So it shouldn't count too much towards the salary cap. I think we talked about it with the AFC West. I know some people were saying that maybe, of course, Bo Nix, the rookie from Oregon, he's been named the captain. They really like him there. I know Surtain has said nice things about him. Surtain get him some fresh paper as well. It's gonna be interesting to see like how the Broncos look, because they are gonna play, you know, a mid-level schedule. They're going to play a little close to first place, and I think some people were saying that the other Broncos could somehow like make it interesting and perhaps maybe even get one of those AFC wildcard spots. I'm not sold on them just yet, just because of the fact that I think, we'll see how Bo Nix looks. I mean, look, he's a rookie, so I think there's going to be some growing pains there. And I'm wondering, like, could there perhaps maybe be that little sense of, will he have his rookie growing pains and whatnot? So yeah, but even still, I mean, again, Mr. Surtain got a nice little record contract. One of DBs, he plays DB and also he's a corner too, so he can play both sides on the defense there. So yeah, a good on him, and nice little money there. Another guy that's got fresh paper. Let me see if I can get it up here. Sam Cosmi, who, if the name doesn't sound familiar, you guys know he's the guard for the Commanders. He gets some fresh paper too. He's a 4-year deal worth about 60 million. He'll get 28 of that million guaranteed. He gets to protect Jaden Daniels, so that'll be an interesting combo there. We'll see how that looks. And then Commanders, another team that's a lot of people is a trendy pick to perhaps maybe go to the playoffs in the NFC. It's going to be interesting in the NFC because there's going to be a lot of teams going to be competing for those 3 wild card spots. And I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I think they definitely have a shot. They've got, of course, they got Daniels, they got McLaren, they've got that defense. That's actually still been, they've hadn't been on the defensive front as well. So I think getting one of their top offensive linemen got them locked up. I think that's definitely going to definitely help Mr. Daniels and in the rookie part of that, to make it a little bit easier. For them as well. DeAndre Hopkins, he hasn't played a lot, back and forth through the injuries. We'll see if he can, hope if he can play Sunday against the Bears, and could be interesting to see what happens there in that front. DeMar Hamlin, of course, a little over a year ago, wins a cardiac arrest. We saw what happened in that Monday night game against Cincinnati. He will get his first start since then, and I know some people will reveal there have been conspiracy theories and whatever, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of that, how that looks. I know Buffalo is one of those fascinating teams because we don't know what you're going to get from Buffalo. I know they've had to let go a lot of guys. Of course, Diggs, down over in Houston, and I'm wondering, like, could they perhaps maybe surprise some folks in the AFC East? I mean, you got Miami. The Patriots are still, they're still kind of finding their ways. The Jets. Basically, everyone has to stay healthy, especially Aaron Rodgers. So could Buffalo perhaps maybe sneak in and perhaps maybe win the East and kind of surprise everybody? Maybe. Look, I think if you're Doug McDermott, I think you're kind of fascinated by this because Sean McDermott, I should say, you're fascinated by this because you don't look. No one's really paying attention. No one thinks you can do anything. So, hey, I mean, why not? I mean, why not? I mean, I think they like the fact that no one's really talking about them. I think that if you're Josh Allen in Buffalo, you actually prefer that. So, maybe they can perhaps maybe surprise some people. So, we'll see. And I saw somewhere that that Kyle Pitts might be out for Atlanta's game. Atlanta is interesting because there are the trendy pick to win the NFC South, and Pitt's not being there, that's gonna get a little bit interesting there. But I'm wondering if they could perhaps maybe make it interesting if you're Atlanta. I mean, hopefully they can kind of try to get it going there for the Falcons. And yeah, of course you got Kirk Cousins down there now. So I'm wondering, could perhaps maybe Atlanta, especially, but if Pitts is gonna be out, they're gonna look. A lot of their guys are gonna have to step up. So if Atlanta, and like I said, Atlanta's interesting because they're good. Look, they're in a very winnable division. The NFC South is. You don't know what you're gonna get. New Orleans, Tampa. Interesting to know though. Who knows? Maybe the Panthers might win 5 games or something. I don't know, but It's going to be interesting to see. But if Pitts is questionable, that's going to be that's a huge could be a huge thing. So that might be something to look out for coming up this year. And of course, you've got the Eagles and the Packers going to be playing in Sao Paulo, Brazil, coming up on Friday. And like I said, we'll talk more in depth about that game in a second on Friday. But I'm looking forward to kind of like that game. That should be interesting too. And I guess they're beefing up security down there in I guess there's some stuff going on down there. So everyone, if you are a Packers or Eagles fan and you're traveling down there to Brazil, especially in that region, be safe. Don't go too crazy down there. So we'll see what happens there. Now you're listening to Cty Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeem McGee be with you flying solo today, but I'm interested to see like I said, just finish up this NFL discussion. Just like I said, if you're in Brazil, we're gonna be in Sao Paulo. Just be safe and healthy, and just be kind of worried about what's going on down there. Now the Eagles are going to be without Devin White, who's a guy they picked up, a linebacker they picked up. So he's not traveling with the team down there to Brazil. So we'll see if they can, you know, but they got a lot of depth there. So we'll see what happens with them as well. And I think that is it for that. Oh yeah, the Texans signed Davis Mills to a 1 year a contract. Of course, he kept everything afloat when CJ Stroud was a little bit banged up. So got a nice little money there from Mr. Mills. So pretty nice little bonus check there. Very deserving of that fresh paper extra extension. So yeah, I think that's about it for the NFL. Yeah, let's go. Let's do the next from the last minute. Let's go into the WNBA. Of course, we talked about it. I talked about it with our new friend Nick King, down in Arizona, and he even said, "Look, I think that look, could the Mercury? I know they beat the Dream yesterday and help the Sky out a little bit there as well. Of course, the Sky." Well, let's just say they didn't have their best go at it either. They lost to the Aces. Uh, it wasn't as close as the last game they played, but they did. But like I said, the good news is that the Mercury did beat the Dream, so it helped them out a little bit there. Now it's going to be interesting to see these last 6 or 7 games. It's going to get a little bit tougher for the Sky. I know. Hopefully, Kennedy Carter will be able to play because, of course, she hasn't been able to play the last week, of course, due to health and safety protocol. So hopefully she'll get cleared because they actually do have one more game. They have another game against the Sparks coming up tomorrow, on Friday, I should say. And looking at the schedule for both them and the Dream these last 6 or 7 games, the Dream, they play the Mystics twice. They have a home and home. Of course, we'll see where the Mystics are by then. I'm sure they're going to improve their seeding. They do play the Dream and the Sky do play each other again. They got to play in Atlanta. I'm talking about the Sky due on the 17th, which is a couple of weeks, and that could very well end up being for that last playoff spot. So we'll see if Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso and the rest of the gang there can. Hopefully, Kenny Carter will be back. Like I said, will be back by then because the last couple of games where they haven't been playing well. And the Lynx, they did keep it close against the Lynx, but they weren't able to make the big shots late. And the Aces just pummeled them by 19 yesterday. So hopefully Kenny Carter will be back. Hopefully she'll be back by Friday. Because they're really definitely going to need her if they want to try to make a playoff push. If Coach Teaspoon wants to make that playoff push and such. Now, some clinches there. The New York Liberty, they make the playoffs for. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They just missed making the playoffs, but they didn't make it this year. So gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a Liberty fan. And for the first time in 7 years, thanks much in part to Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, the Fever make the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. So they're back at it. So it looks like the playoff spot is starting to kind of get it going here, and the Fever actually do play the Sparks. Of course, the Sparks are starting their East Coast road trip starting tonight. You can watch that game that Sparks Fever game on CBS Sports Network. Check your local listings there as well. And I mean, of course, we're going to do the whole like Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese for Rookie of the Year. I think they should just make it a tie just so that people can, just not be insufferable on both ends because it's just annoying. But it is what it is in that front. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're into the WNBA, the last 6 or 7 games, look, there's still a couple of spots that are still, that are still open up. So, like I said, those last 6 or 7 games is going to be very interesting for the Sky, especially. So, Liberty clinching that 1 seed, I think that definitely helps them in that front. The Aces are playing a lot better. A lot of their ladies are healthy now. The Lynx, they're number 3 seed. And the Connecticut Sun, they're fighting for that 2 seed with them. So they got a lot to play for as well. I'm sure the Aces are going to want to, perhaps maybe think they got a small shot at perhaps maybe getting into that top 3 spots. Like we said with Nick earlier, the Mercury already clinched their spot. So I don't know if they're going to be able to say Miss Diana Taurasi a winner, but you never know. We've seen weird things happen. And of course, I guess the way they have it on the tiebreaker front is, I guess, common opponent, I guess, conference record. And the Sky has a better conference record than the Dream do, not by much. There's only like 1 game. They're both under 500, well under 500. So I guess that's why, they're tied per se. But I think, again, the Sky, because of the conference records, they're tied with in game. Like I said, they have 1 more game in a couple of weeks. So that could, like I said, that could very well end up being the game that will decide that last playoff spot. So that's your WNBA talk for today. So we're taking a really quick break. A busy weekend in college football, as some teams sent some messages. Some teams ended up surprising, and also too on the TV front. One long-time cable channel looks like they're starting going to be closing its doors very soon. So the Keenan McGee coming up next. Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Wrap things up coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
And welcome back to Cty Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee here again, flying solo today. You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X Lakina McGee, and IG as we wrap things up here, getting into college hoops here. And I am interested. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, we got a lot of scores to look through here. So we're going to get it going here. If I can get my computer up. Let's see here. Again, feel free to comment, questions, comments. Like our buddy Brandon. What's up, Brandon? Yes, I see you, Mr. Sutton. Of course, you got to go all the way back to earlier if you want to talk, for that talk about the Astros. Yes, I know you guys are beating up my Mariners, but they've been beating themselves lately. So let's be honest in that front. Now, let's go into some college football. A lot of games to come out for this weekend, and it's gonna get a little bit, it's interesting because it's like I said, it's like, I love this time of year because you get a chance to see some teams that might be better than we thought, and you may see some teams that are probably like, see, this is what I always say, no preseason rankings until October. So there you go. There you go. There we'll start with the local teams, of course, a really great we talked about Illinois getting a nice win against Eastern, taking care of business there. Also, too, of course, Northwestern from if you guys saw that gorgeous backdrop that they had over there near the lakefront, just absolutely stunning. Of course, they're going to have that for the first couple of games of the season. So, that's going to be really cool, kind of how they got that going there. But they struggled a little bit against Miami, but they were able to pull it out. So a nice show in there. And also, too, they got a new athletic director, Mark Jackson. No, not the former ESPN and former NBA All-Star guard, Mark Jackson. This Mark Jackson has a really good resume. He won a Super Bowl with Bill Belichick back in the early days in New England. He also has a national championship from with Pete Carroll. I think it was the first national championship because he played football for a D3 school. He also, his his longest tenure has been, he was at Villanova. He was AD there for about 9 years. He oversaw the 2 men's championships with Jay Wright, the 2 and 3 years. So in 14 and 16 and 18. So yeah, so really good. Hopefully he can bring a little bit of that luck over to Northwestern. So should be fun. I think they got a really good one there. Now going to the rest of the national stuff. Of course, Georgia sent a message. No trouble with Clemson, 34-3. Carson Beck threw for 3 touchdowns. It was a little bit, it was a little bit back and forth. Clemson kept it close early, but Georgia kicked it up a notch in the second half. Ohio State, no trouble with Akron. Oregon got a little more they could handle from the Fighting Mark Stink Sheriffs, as I call them, the Idaho Vandals, but they pulled it off late. Texas, no trouble with Colorado State. Alabama, no trouble with Western Kentucky, the Kalen DeBoer era. A nice start there. That's 78 straight games against unranked teams that they won. That's the longest by any FBS team. So you got to go back to 1979 and 1998. That's Nebraska's that stretch. The old black shirts there from back in the day. It's gonna be a very interesting Big 12 old Big 12 rivalry game coming up on Saturday. We'll get to that on Friday. Ole Miss, no trouble. So if you took the over against Furman, you had a nice weekend there. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard had a solid showing. Had a big TD pass late. They beat Texas A&M down there in College Station. Penn State, no trouble with West Virginia. It was weird. That game was a little bit weird because they didn't, they had a lightning delay. And they didn't play for like 2 hours, like 2 or 3 hours. So they had to wait till it was like the game was over till about like 4 or 5 o'clock. So but Penn State was able to pull it off there. Michigan pulled away from Fresno State. They got a big matchup coming up against Texas on Saturday. Tennessee, no trouble with rival Chattanooga, OK State pulled away from the Jackrabbits of San Diego, South Dakota, I should say. K-State no trouble with UT Martin. A big win for Miami down there in Florida, in Gainesville. Cam Ward, 385 yards and 4 TDs. He had a rushing TD as well. And I think a lot of people, this is actually a big steal for Mario Cristobal and his Miami crew, because a lot of people thought he was going to go to the draft. I'm talking about Mr. Ward. So, that was a nice pickup there from Miami. It's already paying dividends so far. We talked about Arizona earlier, 61-39 over New Mexico. Iowa scored 40 points. Yay! They had no trouble with Illinois State. I had to say that it was just funny for me to say that. So, Florida State, losing a tough one against Georgia Tech. Now they lose to an all-star Boston College, and what can you say at this point about anything you can say about Florida State? I mean, I honestly don't know what can you say at this point, but just not a good showing for Mike Norvell and his guys. Vanderbilt usually has one of these wins where they usually win against somebody that they have no business winning. Vodtech. You thought that maybe Vodtech. Oh, okay, Vodtech. Once the kicker from Vanderbilt missed that field goal that would have won it, you thought, okay, but then Vanderbilt comes back, they get a TD, and of course they were able to stop Vodtech. So nice one for Vandy. And some of the other scores, Purdue over Indiana State. Let's see anything else. Let's see here. Nebraska. We talked about Del Riola. They got a big matchup against Colorado coming up on Saturday. So they had no trouble with UTEP, 40-7. Let's see. We talked about Northwestern. Talked about the Northwestern game. South Carolina had no trouble with Old Dominion. They pulled away from them. They held them off. Cal beat Stony Brook, I should say. Cal UC Davis. Cal beat UC Davis. I think that's about it for the bigger matchups. Houston, no trouble with UNLV. UNLV, I should say, beating Houston. That's about it. Kentucky, shutting out Southern Miss. BYU, no trouble with Southern Illinois. That's about it. Okay, so we talked about Arizona State, just hammering Wyoming, and Washington, no trouble with Weber State. So, but probably one of the bigger wins was USC over LSU. USC was actually down late in the third, going into the fourth quarter, but they were able to make inroads. They scored some points. Woody Marx's TD run with 8 seconds left with the transfer. They were able to pull probably one of the bigger wins in Lincoln Riley's era. Look, I'm not going to say Lincoln Riley is back, but like I said, they got a couple of DC defensive coordinator now, because remember, that was a problem for USC the last couple of years. You can ask Caleb Williams. Like I said, they stole him from UCLA and across town, and the defense, their credit, actually made some big plays to kind of keep LSU at bay, and it got Coach Brian Kelly so upset that he lost his Southern accent. So go figure what that was. So a good win nice big win for USC over in Vegas, and very, very, like I said, a very interesting game there, and a pretty thrilling game too. It was actually quite entertaining. So that was a really cool win for SC. And going into, like I said, we'll talk about the games coming up on Friday, but there's some good ones here. Of course, Northwestern and Duke, the battle of the smart schools, as they say, coming up on Friday. That should be a fun one. Also, to Indiana, they host Western Illinois. BYU and SMU, that should be interesting as well, coming up on Friday. Like I said, we'll talk more about those games coming up on Friday afternoon. Should be some great matches coming up at week 2. Excuse me, it's just Cty Sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakina McGee with you as I wrap things up here now. Let's go to the courts of tennis, and a really good showing by both the men's and the women's side. Emma Navarro, who of course beat Coco Gauff. a couple of rounds before she makes her second straight Grand Slam semifinals. She beats Padosa in a straight set, 6-2, 7-5. She'll have a tough go at it though, because she'll be facing Zabalenka, who has three of these Sabalenka, that she has three of these. Of course, she won the French Open earlier this year, and also Wimbledon as well. So she's definitely gonna have a tough go at it. They're number 2 seed. Of course, Cty Sports they're about to play right now as we speak. But Em Navarro, she's playing in front of her peeps. Remember, she's from New York. I think she's from Brooklyn. So she's definitely gonna be feeding off that crowd there as they play tomorrow. So that should be a fun semifinal there on the women's side. Now on the men's side, for the first time, ooh, I love this. This is probably one of my favorite things about this is that we're getting to see new stars. Of course, you're seeing Miss Emma Navarro on the women's side for the Americans, and now you're on the men's side for the first time since '06. We're good. Well, since '07, I think I got that right. Let me double check that. But yeah, we're gonna have an All-American semifinal. So for the first time since '08, there's going to be guaranteeing a spot for the U.S. men. The first time since '06, so there's going to be an American in the final on the men's side. It's been a while, obviously, and of course it'll be on Friday. Both Taylor Fritz and Francis Tiafoe both won their respective quarterfinal matches, and they played against it on Friday. They're good friends, and that should be a fun matchup. And I know that place is going to be rocking over there in Arthur Ashe Stadium court, because you see some of the best. It's like basically a who's who. If you guys been watching following the U.S. Open, of course, you've seen Serena's been there. Federer was just there, I think, last night. I think Andy Roddick, who of course was the last American man to win a U.S. Open, any Grand Slam title for the men, in like 18 years. He's been able to he's been there a lot lately, and yeah, it's good to see some of the greats they're seeing this new crop of talent. And this American final for the men, I think that's semifinal, I should say, for the men. I mean, this should be a really good matchup, because, like I said, I think they split their respective series. I think Tiafoe has like a 1-match lead, so we'll see what happens there. And also too, Miss Jessica Pegula on the women's side, I forgot about her. She's going to be in the quarterfinals. She's playing her quarterfinal matchup later tonight against Ida Swiatek. So we can perhaps maybe get 2 American women in the semis as well. So a good chance for that to happen. So yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see about that. And with us on the men's side, especially with no Alcaraz, no Novak. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of guys open now. Of course, I think Medvedev, I think, will be playing his match later on. So so that you got to think that's going to be an interesting matchup there as well for the men. So we'll see, what happens there. Of course, like I say, he has a couple of these U.S. Opens, so not his first word, and I know they love him there. So should be fun there. Of course, you can catch all the coverage of the U.S. Open on the ESPN family of networks coming up, and I believe, like I said, we'll talk about it on Friday, but I think one of the finals is going to be on ABC. So we'll double check that, but yeah, definitely gotta check that out as well. As the second Cty Sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakina McGee with you as we wrap things up here. Let's see what else. You know what? Little sports media news, and I'm interested to see about this ABC Sports Chicago. It's like I said, ABC Sports Chicago. Of course, like we say, for the last couple of months, they're going to be ceasing operations, and at the end of this month, and they actually aired a great tribute to all of the great moments. Of course, ironically, the first moment is the White Sox winning winning the World Series back in '05. Of course, the 20th anniversary is coming up. How 20 years have changed, but again, we won't talk about that. But just see some of the great moments, interviewing with some of the people that have been there. And I am super glad, pardon me for looking down here for a second. Just want to make sure I got the guys. Like I said, I'm looking it up because I want to make sure the guy's name is right, because he was kind of like the godfather of all this, and of NBC Sports Chicago. Excuse me. And if I can get it up here. As I do that, as if you missed it, don't worry. I'm sure NBC Sports Chicago is going to replay it at various points the rest of the month before it officially ceases operations on at the end of the month on the 30th. So yeah, give me a second here to get this get this up if I can find the darn thing. Okay, so yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see. Like I said, Jim Corno, who was the original president of NBC Sports. I think it was back then. I think it was a sports channel back then, and he kind of like took that idea and kind of like made it and helped it evolve in different forms. So he's been a very instrumental, of course, kind of led the way, perhaps maybe bringing in the regional sports aspect of it, to Chicago, and especially here in the number 3 market. And unfortunately, like I said, the regional sports has kind of, I don't want to say it ceased to exist because of cord cutting and such, but it's gonna definitely be the end of an era over there at NBC Sports. And I know they've been kind of veering away from some of the stuff lately, but it's gonna be interesting to see like how all this sort of shakes out. As I've been saying for weeks since all this news came out, they're gonna have to get, I mean, they're gonna have to try to get, perhaps maybe get somebody, some of the Bears content, especially college sports content. Even I would even say even high school sports to some extent. I mean, I think about all the people that were there during the whole 20 years. People we've had on the show multiple times. I mean, our buddies, Lila Rahimi, who's now over at NBC Sports, NBC Chicago now, there's lead sports anchor. Our buddy Chris Bowden, who was there for a few years, now over at WGN Sports. They also Rolis Bergamini, who was did a lot of their high school coverage for both the football and boys and girls basketball. Now, of course, she's doing some stuff over at Odyssey with both the Score and WBBM. She's doing the sports updates there. So a lot of great people over the years have come and gone. And, some have been fortunate to say. Some others have left other endeavors. Some will actually go towards that new network at the end of the month. Of course, we know our other friend of the show who have been here, Pat Boyle. He's going to be doing of course, Hot Spring and Post again. We know Adam and me and Stacey King are going to be doing the Bulls games as well. So yeah, it's going to get a little bit interesting to see. Like we'll see. I know the Hawks got some new blood over there as well for their TV side. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like kind of all this sort of shakes out. But like I said, I mean, you got to keep the content flowing. You got to get like Bears content. 'Cause that's like the number one thing. Now let's see. True TV. Now True TV is interesting because they've been, of course, with TNT is going to be no longer going to be the home of NBA. They're beefing up their sports. Now they're going to be doing since NASCAR is going to be some of the playoffs and NASCAR is going to be on TNT. True TV is actually going to be let me see if I can get it up here. They're going to be doing like some racing coverage, so to kind of beef up that. So they're going to have 3 new shows during the Cup playoffs for NASCAR. And so, like I said, this is their way of trying to get more and more sports content, especially for True TV. They're kind of rebranding itself now as a sports channel in some form. Of course, they've had a lot of their college football. I think that later this year they're gonna have some college football matchups. Elena Rizzo's actually gonna be doing a playoff whip around for MLB as that it gets going too. So yeah, True TV is actually trying to get these going here with with their sports content. So that should be interesting to see if maybe that'll help get more eyeballs into that network, especially with now that there's not going to be any more NBA after this season. You got to beef it up somehow. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Excuse me. Now we don't talk about this show very much, but I want to kind of real quick before I go here, Dancing with the Stars. Now, Dancing with the Stars, of course, we've seen, various athletes win over the years. We've seen football players like Emmitt Smith and Donald Driver. Iman Shumpert became the tallest guy to win, the first basketball player to win Dancing with the Stars a couple of years ago. Now, there's going to be 4 new participants for Dancing with the Stars on the sports side, I should say. I should make sure to make that clear. Of course, one of the ones is Dwight Howard, of course, former NBA player. He's been keeping himself busy playing basketball over at I think they're in they've been playing in in Asia somewhere, like I think like in Japan or something, or even in Europe too. I know he's been playing overseas a lot lately, but he's going to be part of the new cast of Dancing with the Stars. He's also former Super Bowl champ and former wide receiver David Amendola, who hopefully to kind of get the tradition of both the football players tend to do pretty well in this competition. So I'm sure he's hoping to kind of keep up with that tradition as well. And a couple of Olympic bronze medal winners who became social media who become social media sensations. Steven Nadrastik, who, of course, if you guys remember, he had the glasses, like the Clark Kent type glasses, and of course, the pommel horses, especially one helped the men's team win a clinch a bronze. He also himself won a bronze in the event final. Also, too, Ilona Mayer, not Mayer, I think that's how she says her name. She, of course, she's the rugby sensation for the U.S. women. Of course, she helped the women clinch their first ever medal in that sport, bronze. So yeah, both the four of them are going to be representing for the athletes. Of course, some of the other names, of course, there are other names as well besides them. Of course, your former original 90210 Olymp Tori Spelling, Oscar winner, Oscar nominee, and fellow and veteran actor Eric Roberts. We've got, of course, we honored this show on Old School TV Monday by Lavelle Johnson from Family Matters, the patriarch there. He is going to be part of that as well. He'll be the oldest contestant on there among some of the others. You've got Fraser Parks. You've got a couple of people from The Bachelor. You've got Joey Grissadell, who was the previous Bachelor. And of course, you got Jen Tran, who had her heart broken last night. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, she's going to be on Dance with the Stars as well this season. So yeah, you can catch. Let me see if I can get the date of this. You can catch Dance with the Stars later this month on ABC. It'll be streaming the next day on Disney Plus and on Hulu. So if you guys missed the premiere, don't worry. You guys will get a chance to watch it on Disney Plus and on Hulu. And I think that's about it for me. So with that said, you follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, @McGee on the IG. And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on excuse me, okay. Cty Sports every Monday and Friday. Wednesday occasionally on the holidays. We're right here on Sports of Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channel. One more time, you get Cty Sports on a regular day, Monday and Friday, and occasionally when there is a holiday on Wednesdays, right here on Sports of Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. And of course, you catch the audio version on War Media. If you have War Media, just get the War Media right there where you get your apps, where you get your podcasts. It's all right there for you. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime on the on War Media, and of course you've got Roku TV. Okay, let me get this up here. Sports Zone Chicago. It's on Roku TV. Of course, you guys know what to do if you have the Roku TV app. Just type if you download that. Type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cuz, and so much more. You get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. And we will provide for my buddy Sid, who will be back on Monday. And also thanks to our new friend Nick King from 3TV and CBS 5 down in Phoenix for talking Cardinals, NFC West, and also Arizona sports in general. Had a great conversation. I'm definitely going to have him back on soon, so you guys get to catch a replay of that as well. So for everybody, enjoy the MLB as they finish up their season some next couple of days. Also, WNBA, some good games there, and a whole lot more. Also, shout out to Scotty Scheffler for getting that $10 million annuity. So he gets a nice little cashing to check and gets to chill for a few months. I'm sure he's going to be happy about that. So I like Kina, enjoy this gorgeous weather. I know it's gonna be a little bit warmer in some parts of the country, but be safe, be happy, enjoy the sports, and we'll see you guys Friday. And let's go Cubs. Since it's me, holla, see ya on Friday.